Admiral Han nodded, and the Void Commander appeared on screen once more. The alien's confidence had vanished, replaced by barely controlled rage. "What manner of weapons are these?" it demanded. "No technology should be capable of." "Final warning," interrupted Admiral Han, his voice calm but firm. "The next demonstration won't be so gentle. Withdraw all forces from this system immediately." The Void Commander's black eyes narrowed. "This isn't over. The Dominion spans dozens of systems. We will return with a force that—" "You misunderstand again," Admiral Han said, cutting off the threat. "What you've seen is restraint, not limitation. We chose not to destroy your ships or kill your crews. That choice can be reversed." To emphasize his point, the Cerberus's main weapon array began to glow with building energy, a sight that made the Void Commander visibly flinch. "You have 1 hour to collect your disabled vessels and leave this system," Admiral Han continued. "After that, we will consider any remaining Void Dominion ships as hostile combatants and respond accordingly." The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent as they watched the tactical display. Slowly, the still operational Void ships began moving toward their disabled companions, extending docking tubes to attach to them. "Will they really retreat?" asked First Officer Junho. Captain Du Yun watched the enemy movements carefully. "They will for now. But Admiral Han is right. This isn't over. We've just announced humanity's presence to a hostile power that spans multiple star systems." "At least we saved the Arcanians," said Lieutenant Subin. "Yes," agreed Du Yun. "And now perhaps they can explain how they knew to call us in the first place." The Arcanian homeworld erupted in celebration as the human heroes arrived. Crowds cheered and threw flowers, welcoming the people who had saved them from the Void Dominion attack. High Elder Kilai approached Admiral Han and Captain Choi, bowing deeply with respect. "The ancient stories were true," the Elder said. "The warrior race that chose peace has returned." 3 months later, something big happened. Representatives from 27 different space-traveling civilizations met on Earth's orbital platform called Harmony. They came together to sign an important agreement. Humanity would now protect everyone using the powerful war beasts, but with strict rules and careful watching by the new Council of Worlds. Captain Choi, now a fleet commander, stood beside Dr. Jinnah. They watched the important ceremony from a special observation deck. The room was quiet and serious. "We were scared of becoming monsters," Jin-A whispered. "But instead, we became protectors." Choi agreed, but his mind was elsewhere. He held a secret report in his hand. The paper showed that the Void Dominion was gathering forces at the edge of known space. They were building something huge and mysterious. "The real challenge is still coming," he said softly. "But this time, we won't be alone." Below them, delegates raised their hands in a symbol of unity. Humanity had changed. They were no longer just survivors trying to stay alive. Now they were defenders of the galaxy, ready to protect and fight when needed. The universe watched and waited, knowing everything had changed forever. "All ships, defensive formation Delta," ordered Captain Du Yun. "Raise shields but hold fire unless directly ordered." The 5 war beasts moved with surprising grace for their size, forming a protective wall between the Void Dominion fleet and the Arcanian planet. Their black hulls began to shimmer slightly as defensive systems activated. "Enemy weapons firing in 3, 2, 1, counted Junseo. Brilliant beams of energy lanced from the Void Dominion ships toward the human fleet. The bridge crew tensed, many of them never having experienced actual combat. But instead of impact alarms, there was only silence. The energy weapons struck the war beast's shields and simply disappeared. The shields, operating on principles the attackers couldn't comprehend, absorbed the enemy fire completely, showing only slight ripples of blue light where the beams hit. "Shields holding at 100%, reported Junseo, unable to keep surprise from his voice. "Their weapons appear to be based on plasma technology. Our quantum shields are converting the energy and storing it. The Void Dominion ships fired again, this time with missiles that streaked across space. These too were stopped, vanishing in small flashes of light as they hit the invisible barrier around the human ships. "They're launching fighter craft," announced the sensor officer. 200 small vessels deploying. Captain Du Yun watched calmly as the swarm of small craft emerged from the larger void ships. He had expected this, an attempt to overwhelm their defenses with numbers. "Tactical. Deploy countermeasures," he ordered. "Minimal force. Warning shots only." "Yes, sir," Jun Seo acknowledged, entering commands into his console. What followed was not a battle but a demonstration. The Cerberus extended gravitational lenses, invisible fields that could bend space itself in small, controlled ways. Enemy fire curved back toward its sources, not striking them directly but passing close enough to show what could happen. The Orthrus, commanded by Captain Maicha Song, deployed swarms of autonomous drones that moved faster than any pilot could track. These tiny machines attached themselves to enemy fighter craft, not destroying them but disabling their weapons with surgical precision. The Hydra, the most unique of the war beasts, performed the most dramatic maneuver. The massive ship split into 3 separate sections, each independently controlled but working in perfect coordination. They moved to surround a group of civilian Arcanian ships attempting to evacuate from the planet, creating an impenetrable shield. The Sphinx and Fenrir held position, their weapons ports still closed but clearly visible, a warning of what might come next. The Void Dominion forces pressed their attack with increasing desperation. They launched electromagnetic pulses, gravity distortion weapons, and even attempted to ram the human vessels with sacrificial ships. Nothing worked. The war beasts remained unmoved, their defenses impenetrable. On the bridge of the Cerberus, Admiral Han watched with grim satisfaction. "They're testing our capabilities," he observed, learning that they're outmatched. "Sir," called Lieutenant Su Bin, "we're detecting communication between their ships. They appear to be preparing a coordinated attack." "Let them try once more," Admiral Han said. "Then we show them what these ships can really do." The Void Dominion fleet regrouped into a sphere formation. All 30 ships fired simultaneously, focusing their combined firepower on the Cerberus. The energy release was so massive that it briefly outshone the star at the center of the system. For a moment, the Cerberus disappeared in the blinding light. The bridge crew held their breath. When the light faded, the massive warship remained exactly where it had been, completely untouched. Captain Du Yun nodded to Jun Seo. "Now we respond." The Cerberus's weapon ports opened for the first time in 80 years. But instead of firing destructive beams, the ship released what appeared to be small silver spheres. These objects moved at incredible speed, weaving between the enemy vessels. Where they passed, enemy ships suddenly lost power. Weapons went offline. Engines shut down. Communication systems failed. The Orthrus targeted the engines of the larger void ships, firing precise pulses that disabled their propulsion systems without causing catastrophic damage. The Hydra's 3 sections coordinated their fire to create a net of energy that trapped several enemy vessels, holding them immobile. After 20 minutes, a third of the Void Dominion fleet lay disabled but not destroyed. The rest had pulled back to a defensive position, clearly reassessing their options. "They're hailing us again," reported Lieutenant Subin. The main view screen filled with data as the ship's powerful sensors scanned the system. What they revealed caused a wave of silence to sweep across the bridge. 3 planets, each clearly once inhabited, lay in ruins. Massive debris fields surrounded them, the remains of cities and orbital structures. A 4th planet was under active bombardment by a fleet of sleek obsidian ships, their weapons creating bright flashes visible even from this distance. "Life signs?" Admiral Han asked quietly. "Detecting approximately 3 billion on the planet under attack," reported the sensor officer. "Population centers are being systematically targeted." "Battle stations," ordered Captain Choi. "Prepare defensive screens and evasive procedures." Communications, monitor all frequencies. As the war beasts moved deeper into the system, staying hidden behind the outer planet's gravitational signatures, an unexpected transmission broke through their communications buffer. "Signal coming in," reported Lieutenant Subin. "It's on our frequency, sir." "Origin?" demanded Captain Choi. "The planet under attack." It's in a language very similar to the mathematical patterns Dr. Hume decoded." "Put it through." The view screen changed to show an alien face. The being had blue-tinged skin, large eyes, and delicate features. Despite its obvious differences from humans, its expression of relief was unmistakable. "The Guardians have come." The alien spoke in accented but understandable human language. The legends were true. The bridge crew exchanged startled glances. "This is Captain Du-Yun Choi of Earth's Defense Fleet," Du-Yun replied, maintaining his composure despite his shock. "We received your distress signal. What legends are you referring to?" The Arcanian representative's blue-tinged face grew solemn on the view screen. "The legends of the sleeping giants who sealed away their might until the galaxy truly needed them. The warriors who chose peace but stand ready to defend life when darkness comes." Captain Choi sat back in his command chair, momentarily speechless. Somehow, these aliens knew not only of Earth's existence, but of the war beasts themselves, ships that had been hidden away for 80 years. "How do you know of us?" he finally asked. "There is much to explain," replied the Arcanian, "but little time. The Void Dominion will detect your presence soon. What you must know now is that your arrival was foretold. We have waited, hoping the need would never arise." As if on cue, alarms sounded across the bridge. "Captain," called out the tactical officer, "the enemy ships are changing course. They've detected us." The time for questions had ended. The time for action had begun. The Void Dominion fleet shifted their attack as soon as the human ships were detected. 30 warships, each formidable but half the size of the war beasts, broke off their bombardment of the Arcanian planet and formed a wedge-shaped attack pattern. Their black hulls gleamed like polished obsidian against the stars. On the bridge of the Cerberus, Captain Du-Yun watched the enemy ships approach on the tactical display. Despite their smaller size, the Void Dominion vessels moved with precision that suggested experienced crews. "They're hailing us," reported Lieutenant Subin from the communication station. Her voice remained steady despite the tension that filled the bridge. "Put them through," ordered Admiral Han, who stood beside Captain Du-Yun's command chair. The main view screen changed to show an alien commander. The being had pallid skin stretched tight over an elongated skull. Its eyes were huge and entirely black, with no visible pupils. When it spoke, rows of small, sharp teeth flashed. "Unknown vessels," the alien said in a voice that sounded like grinding stones. "This system has been claimed by the Void Dominion. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Han stepped forward, his weathered face showing no fear. "We are humanity. We're here to answer the Arcanian distress call. Withdraw your forces immediately." The Void Commander's mouth stretched in what might have been a smile. "Humanity, we have no record of your species." It paused, studying something off-screen. "Impressive vessels, but we've conquered 12 systems before this. Your 5 ships cannot stop us." "You misunderstand." Admiral Han replied calmly. "These aren't just ships." The Void Commander cut the transmission without response. On the tactical display, the 30 enemy warships accelerated toward the human fleet. "They're powering weapons," reported Tactical Officer Jun Seo. Du-Yun turned to see First Officer Jun-Ho Lee, a tall man with a serious face. Unlike the captain and many senior officers, Jun-Ho had not been awakened from cryo-sleep. At 43, he represented the new generation of Earth's military, officers who had studied the war beasts in theory, but never seen them in actual combat. "Proceed," Du-Yun said, accepting the report tablet. "All 5 ships maintain optimal function. The quantum drives are operating at 97% efficiency. The crew revival is now complete with 98% success rate. Du Yun nodded, scanning the report. The 2%. 10 crew members across the fleet showed complications from extended cryosleep. The medical teams are confident they will recover before we reach our destination. Good. And communications. We maintain radio silence as ordered. The fleet moves like shadows toward Epsilon Eridani. The captain handed back the tablet. Have Dr. Yoon report to the strategy room in 1 hour. I want an update on her progress with the Arcanian transmissions. As Jun-ho left, Du-Yun returned his gaze to the stars. In his previous life aboard these ships, they had been used to fight other humans. Now they traveled to a distant star to protect aliens they had never met against enemies they didn't understand. 1 hour later, the command staff gathered in the strategy room. Holograms displayed what little they knew of the Epsilon Eridani system, a star slightly smaller than Earth's sun, with at least 5 planets orbiting it. Dr. Jin Yoon, the fleet's xenolinguistics specialist, stood before them. At 35, she was among the youngest department heads on the ship, but her brilliance with alien communication patterns had made her the natural choice for this mission. I've made breakthroughs with the Arcanian language, she began, activating a display that showed complex symbol patterns from the original distress signal. Their communication is based on mathematical principles similar to our own, which has helped tremendously. What have you learned about them? Admiral Han asked from his position at the head of the table. They're peaceful agrarians, she reported, bringing up images decoded from the signal. Their civilization spans 3 planets in the Epsilon Eridani system, connected by regular transport. Their technology is impressive, but focused on creation, not destruction. They've mastered terraforming, eco-engineering, and sustainable development. The display showed beautiful cities built in harmony with natural landscapes, spiraling structures that seemed to grow from the Earth itself, vast fields of crops in geometric patterns, and transport systems that moved among the stars. They have no significant military, asked Security Chief Byung Ho Kang. None that we can detect from the transmissions. They appear to have had peaceful relations with neighboring systems for thousands of years. First Officer Jun-ho Lee frowned. Then how did they send a distress signal directly to Earth? We've been hidden for generations. Our star charts are classified. Our location shouldn't be known to any alien civilization. A silence fell over the room as the implications settled in. That's the question, isn't it? Captain Choi mused, tapping his fingers on the table. Dr. Yoon, is there any indication in their message that they knew specifically who they were calling? No, Captain. The signal appears to be a general broadcast. However, she hesitated. Continue, Doctor, Admiral Han encouraged. Some of the mathematical sequences contain patterns that seem familiar, almost as if designed to be recognized specifically by human minds. It's subtle, but present. The command staff exchanged troubled glances. Could this be a trap? Security Chief Kang asked, voicing what many were thinking. Admiral Han shook his head. To what end? If someone wanted to lure Earth's fleet out, why create such an elaborate scenario? And the destruction we witnessed in those transmissions appeared genuine. We proceed as planned, Captain Choi decided after a moment. But with heightened alert status, all ships will emerge from quantum space in defensive formation. The remaining days of the journey passed in tense preparation. Weapons systems were tested. Battle drills were conducted. Every crew member, whether newly awakened from cryo-sleep or fresh from Earth's academies, prepared for any possible scenario. On the 34th day, the fleet prepared to exit quantum space. Captain Choi took his position on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. Quantum drive disengaging in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, announced the navigation officer. The streaking stars suddenly stabilized as the 5 war beasts returned to normal space. Before them lay the Epsilon Eridani system, a yellow-orange star with its family of planets. Full sensor sweep, ordered Captain Choi. Tactical display. Min Su took her position at the engineering console. Other technicians occupied only 5 of the 30 available stations, a skeleton crew to wake a sleeping giant. All preliminary checks complete. Min Su reported. Ready to begin revival sequence on your command, Captain. Do Yun settled into the command chair, feeling its contours adjust to his body. He took a deep breath, acutely aware of the historical weight of the moment. Proceed, he ordered. Min Su's fingers danced across holographic controls. Beginning revival sequence, she announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Awakening the beast. She pressed her palm against a central panel. The ship's systems recognize her authority through skin conductivity and DNA sampling. The bridge darkened completely for 3 seconds, then gradually illuminated as auxiliary power systems initiated. A deep humming vibration began to build throughout the vessel. On the main display, progress bars showed the sequential activation of thousands of systems. The ship's artificial intelligence, dormant for decades, began to reboot. Primary power grid online, reported a technician. Quantum core stabilizing at 15% and rising. Throughout the massive ship, dormant systems flickered to life. Lights activated in sequence along corridors. Environmental controls adjusted atmosphere composition and temperature. Weapon systems ran self-diagnostics. Communication arrays extended from their recessed housings. Deep within the vessel's residential sections, something even more remarkable began to happen. Cryochambers, hundreds of them, hissed as their seals released for the first time in 80 years. Inside each pod lay a human being, veteran crew members who had made the extraordinary choice to sleep alongside their vessels until they might be needed again. Cryo revival process initiated, reported the medical officer. First vital signs registering. They're coming back, Captain. Du Yun nodded solemnly. These were the true heart of the war beasts, men and women who had served during humanity's darkest hours, who understood both the power and the responsibility of these vessels. 3 hours into the revival process, the bridge was becoming more populated as newly awakened senior officers reported for duty. Many looked disoriented, adjusting to a world 80 years different from the one they remembered. Lieutenant Su Bin Ryu, a young officer freshly assigned as communications specialist, approached Captain Choi with a data tablet. Unlike most of the bridge crew, she had not been in cryo sleep but was part of the new generation assigned to support the veterans. "Sir, I have an update," she said, her voice betraying a hint of nervousness. "We've decoded more of the transmission from Epsilon Eridani. The victims call themselves the Arcanians. Their attackers are known as the Void Dominion." Do Yun studied the information. "What else have we learned about them?" "The Arcanians appear to be a peaceful society with technology focused on terraforming and sustainable development. The Void Dominion seems to be an expansionist empire that targets resource-rich worlds." Du Yun looked up at the bridge crew, a mix of the past and present, veterans of old wars and young officers who had never seen combat. All of them now carried the weight of humanity's most powerful weapons. "Humanity locked away its weapons because we nearly destroyed ourselves," he said quietly. "Now we're unleashing them to save others." Subin hesitated before asking, "What if we become what we feared, sir? What if these ships change us again?" Du Yun met her gaze. Around them, the Cerberus continued its awakening, power levels rising, weapons charging, engines warming. He thought of all the destruction these ships had once caused and might cause again. "Then we failed twice," he replied simply. As they spoke, the other 4 war beasts were also stirring to life. The Orthrus, the Hydra, the Sphinx, and the Fenrir, each a monument to humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction. Within Jupiter's swirling clouds, 5 black stars were being reborn. The 5 war beasts cut through space at impossible speeds, their quantum drives bending reality around them. To an outside observer, if any existed in the empty void between stars, the massive ships would have appeared to flicker in and out of existence, leaving ripples in space-time like stones skipped across a cosmic pond. Inside the flagship Cerberus, Captain Du-Yun Choi stood at the observation deck, watching the stars stretch into lines of light. 20 days had passed since they departed from Jupiter. The journey to Epsilon Eridani, a trip that would take conventional ships decades, would require just 34 days for the war beasts. "Captain," came a voice from behind him. The daily status report. "And why did this signal reach us?" asked Counselor Gabriel Torres. "Earth has maintained strict isolation protocols for a century. Our location shouldn't be known to anyone." "The signal wasn't specifically directed at us," explained Dr. Min-Ho Kwon, chief scientist of the Antarctic facility, speaking via holographic projection. "It appears to be a broadcast in all directions, a call for help to anyone who might be listening." Counselor Yun Jikang, representing Oceania, stood up. "Even if this is a genuine distress call, we've maintained our isolation for a century for good reasons. This isn't our fight." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Admiral Han's weathered face hardened. "With respect, Counselor, this is exactly why we kept the war beasts instead of destroying them. For a day we hoped would never come. The war beasts were preserved as a last line of defense for Earth," Counselor Kang retorted, "not to play galactic police. If we ignore this call," Admiral Han said quietly, "and these aggressors continue expanding their territory, how long before they find us? We have a chance to meet them on our terms, not theirs." The debate raged for 16 hours. Some counselors argued for humanity's moral obligation to help, while others emphasized the risks of revealing Earth's existence to potentially hostile forces. Dr. Kwan's team continued analyzing the signal, providing updates throughout the deliberations. The final piece came when they determined that the Epsilon Eridani system contained at least 3 habitable planets based on data embedded in the transmission. As the Council entered its final voting phase, Admiral Han made one last appeal. "Humanity sealed away its weapons because we nearly destroyed ourselves with them. Let us now use them for something greater, to save others from destruction." The final vote was 7-5 in favor of intervention. Humanity would answer the call. As Admiral Han left the council chambers, he looked up at the night sky, wondering what forces they were about to unleash upon the galaxy and themselves. The massive hangar doors within Jupiter's atmosphere parted for the first time in 80 years. The process was slow and deliberate. Metallic groans echoed as mechanisms unused for generations struggled to perform their duty. Layer by layer, the protective barriers withdrew, allowing dim sunlight to penetrate the hidden fortress. Inside the revealed chamber floated 5 colossal warships. Each vessel stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern, their black hulls absorbing all light that touched them. They hung suspended in pressurized docks, held in place by gravitational tethers, sleeping giants waiting to be awakened. The transport shuttle carrying Captain Du-Yun Choi approached the largest of these behemoths, the flagship known as Cerberus. Through the viewport, he studied the vessel that would soon be under his command. Its surface showed no windows, no external lights, just smooth black material interrupted occasionally by closed weapon ports and engine housings. At 62, Du-Yun had spent the last 15 years in peaceful retirement, tending to his small garden in the Korean countryside. The military call had arrived 3 days ago, pulling him back to service. Few officers remained who had experience with the war beasts, and fewer still who had actually commanded one. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Du-Yun stepped out into the cavernous main hangar, where a small team of technicians and officers already worked to bring the mighty vessel back to life. Most were young, born long after the ships had been sealed away. "Captain on deck," someone called, and the workers paused to acknowledge his arrival. Du-Yun walked slowly across the hangar, feeling strangely small against the impossible scale of the interior. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. He recalled the last time he had been aboard, as a young lieutenant during the final training exercise before the ships were decommissioned. Chief Engineer Min Soo-kyung approached him. Despite being only 35, she was considered the foremost expert on war beast technology, having dedicated her career to studying the mothball fleet. "Welcome aboard, Captain," she said with a crisp salute. "We've been preparing for your arrival." "How goes the revival?" Du Yun asked, returning the salute. "We're ready to begin the main sequence. Would you like to observe from the bridge?" Du Yun nodded, and they made their way through the ship. The corridors were dark, lit only by the portable lights brought by the activation team. Everything was exactly as it had been left, clean, orderly, and waiting. The bridge was a circular chamber at the heart of the vessel, surrounded by protective layers that could withstand almost any attack. The command chair sat in the center, overlooking a series of stations arranged in concentric rings. Deep within Earth's Antarctic monitoring station, Lieutenant Dae-ho Kim sat alone during the quiet night shift. Most staff had gone to sleep hours ago, leaving him to watch over the vast array of sensors that continuously scanned the cosmos for any unusual signals. The facility was buried 200 meters beneath the ice, a perfect location free from Earth's electronic noise. Its massive dishes pointed to the stars, listening for anything out of the ordinary. Dae-ho sipped his coffee and glanced at the monitors. His eyes stopped at an anomalous reading from the direction of Epsilon Eridani, a star system roughly 10.5 light-years from Earth. A peculiar pattern of radio waves had appeared, repeating every 94 seconds with perfect precision. He adjusted the sensors, thinking it might be an equipment malfunction. The pattern continued, unchanged. After triple-checking the systems, he felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the Antarctic location. "This can't be right," he whispered to himself, running a comparison algorithm against all known cosmic phenomena. The computer returned no matches. The pattern was too regular to be natural, but didn't match any human transmission protocols. After watching it repeat for 3 hours, Dae-ho finally pressed the emergency notification button. "Commander Park, you need to see this," he called out over the intercom, breaking protocol for overnight communications. Commander Ji-woo Park had been asleep in her quarters when the alert came through. She dressed quickly and hurried to the control room, her mind racing through possibilities. In 15 years at the station, they had never found anything definitively artificial from beyond Earth. She rushed into the monitoring center, her hair still disheveled from sleep. "This better be important, Lieutenant." "I believe it is, Commander," Dae-ho said, pointing to his screen. "This signal has been repeating for over 3 hours now. It's coming from Epsilon Eridani." Jet-woo leaned over his shoulder, her eyes widening as she analyzed the waveform. She quickly sat at the adjacent console and ran her own diagnostic tests. After several minutes of tense silence, she looked up. "It's definitely artificial," she confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. "And it's not one of ours." For a moment, they both sat in stunned silence, the weight of the discovery hanging between them. "Run a deep analysis," Ji-woo ordered, regaining her composure. "I need to contact Earth Central immediately." While Dae-ho worked to decode the signal, Ji-woo established a priority link to Earth's Interstellar Council headquarters in Geneva. Within minutes, she was explaining the situation to increasingly higher-ranking officials. By sunrise, the facility had come alive with activity as additional specialists were flown in. The signal, meanwhile, continued its perfect rhythm. 26 hours after the initial discovery, the first breakthrough came. The technical team managed to extract embedded data packets within the radio transmission, complex mathematical sequences that unfolded into visual information. "It's like they designed it to be understood by anyone with basic math," explained senior analyst Soo Jin-yoon as she displayed the first images on the main screen. The room fell silent as the images appeared. They showed cities unlike any on Earth, structures of impossible geometry housing beings that were clearly not human. But more disturbing were the subsequent images. These same cities in flames, civilians running from what appeared to be orbital bombardment, and massive black ships descending from the skies. "It's a distress call," Dae-ho realized, speaking what everyone was thinking. By then, the discovery had reached the highest levels of Earth's government. Within 48 hours of the signal's detection, Earth's Interstellar Council convened an emergency session in Geneva. Admiral Han Ta-sung, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, stood before the 12 council members. At 78, he was one of the few military leaders who had been present when the decision was made to mothball Earth's interstellar fleet, the vessels known as the War Beasts. "The signal leaves little room for interpretation," he said, his deep voice carrying easily through the chamber. "An intelligent civilization is being systematically destroyed by an aggressive force." The council chamber's walls displayed the decoded images in high definition. Some council members couldn't maintain eye contact with the scenes of destruction. "What do we know about these species?" asked Councillor Bak Sunbai, representing the Asian Coalition. "Very little," Admiral Han admitted. "The signal contains no specific information about either the senders or their attackers, only the mathematical universal language and these images."